We're kind of plugging away, getting this site spun up, and it's the middle of July 2011. And we wake up one day and all of our sites are on page 8 of Google. We were like, hey, what's going on? How did we screw this up? How can we fix this? Whatever. Well, it turns out, really wasn't something we screwed up. Through this whole series, we got connected with a lawyer, a guy who was involved in an FTC investigation, trying to break up Google essentially and their monopoly. Ended up discovering that Google had assessed a manual penalty against the site.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
That's the front page story. I don't know if it's backwards for you or not.
Google ranking unfair, site says.
So this was kind of like the genesis to everything. And we ended up, getting our issue resolved basically through pressuring them through the media. But in the process of that happening, we just realized, oh, wow, Google has really the power to make or break just about anything on the internet. If it can't be found on Google, then it basically doesn't exist.
If you want to see more videos and interviews like this from influential people in tech, finance, and sports, subscribe to the channel and make sure you hit the bell to be alerted. And go a step further and join the YouTube and membership area for early releases of videos like this. I'm out of here. Ha! It's your boy Crypto Blood, and welcome to another Kicking It session. Today, I've got the founder of Presearch on with me, Colin Pape.
Yes, sir.
Colin, what's going on, man? Thanks for joining me today on a Kicking It session with Crypto Blood.
Hey, Blood. Thanks for having me, man. Doing well.
Where are you out of?
I am near Toronto in Canada.
Oh, okay. Not too far from,
from Detroit.
Yeah, about 4 or 5 hours, something like that, right?
Yeah, you're one of the closest cities to us.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be up there for the Futurist conference.
Oh, nice.
Conference in August.
Nice.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys will be out there, but
yeah,
if so, I'll definitely come by the booth. Okay, great.
That'd
So you guys, Presearch will be out at the Futurist conference, so go check those guys out. But glad to have you on. Shout out to my man Rice TVX for linking us. I've heard of you guys for many years, and it seems like now you guys are more relevant than any time. You've got what happened to Duckduckgo. The CEO came out and started talking crazy, man. And then come to find out they have a secret deal with Microsoft to share data. So it all makes sense now why he's, picking a side, right? You should be neutral in a search engine like that. But kind of tell us about yourself, Colin, your background, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, no, it's interesting times. Definitely becoming more and more relevant. Myself, I've been kind of working in the internet space for quite a while. Kind of since the late '90s, early 2000s, when I was a teenager. Started building websites for like my family business. I grew up in an entrepreneurial household, and really, saw the potential for the internet to kind of level the playing field with like small local businesses against some of the big box stores and the bigger businesses. And in the early days of the internet, it was really kind of like this real Wild West, kind of like crypto, but almost even more so back then. And it was, really kind of this land of freedom, and there really weren't any gatekeepers at that point. It was like every person, every company, everything was kind of on their own. And so it was just, a different time. And I remember those times, and I remember like getting my first server when I was, 20, 21 years old, and discovering the power of being able to publish online and have everybody and anybody in the world access that content really without any intermediaries. And so I got super pumped about the internet, and was really passionate about it. I've spent most of my life at this point online, a lot, and I kind of had this early hope for the internet that it would be this place where we could all kind of thrive and grow and be without censorship, and ended up kind of over the course of years, we had Google come up and end up just being this monopoly, basically 92%
Right.
search, all these walled gardens. I mean, there was like in the late 90s, there was like AOL, and that was like
Right.
considered the walled garden. And then there was like the open internet, and it was like, yes, the walled garden is going away. We're going to the open internet. And then all of a sudden, Facebook comes up, Twitter comes up, all these other guys, YouTube comes up, and we end up with these walled gardens again, where we've got these gatekeepers, and they're, able to censor
So
everybody.
here's my question, because it
So
seems like a pattern, though. It
it,
seems
it
like humanity, we may start out decentralized, but we want to coalesce or become centralized over time. It seems like every system, you
yes.
look at whatever it is, whether it's internet, technology, you look at nature, it seems like so it's just interesting that we do have blockchain now,
Yep.
and there is the ability to stay decentralized. But we even see in blockchain we're becoming centralized. So it's the same story over again. Colin, what's your thoughts?
It's wild, man. I was literally having this conversation with my neighbor this morning, Julian. He's awesome guy, knows a lot about history, and we were talking about like bureaucracy and
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the way that governments just end up, kind of like getting so bloated, and how it happened, with him and his corporate life, and all these like little empires kind of end up just emerging, and they seem to get reinforced by different things with the internet. It's these network effects, and just how, yeah, like, I not that it's unavoidable, but it seems to be the natural kind of tendency. And I think it's things like, like with the US, really, what was kind of the foundation of the success of the nation to date has been that founding document, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, and them kind of like enumerating very clearly, hey, here is how it works, and kind of having like the focus on freedom, and being an active kind of participant versus just going along with kind of like the I guess the flow towards that centralization. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, like, things like that, and people who recognize the value in things being decentralized, being oriented to freedom, kind of like voluntarily working together to, like, actually take an active role in promoting that outcome, and holding ourselves and each other accountable, and kind of just maintaining that North Star, I think, is necessary. Because when we don't do that, we do have this tendency to just like go to the guy with the loudest voice, or go to
Right.
the business with the most money, or
Right.
whatever it is.
Follow the influencer with the most views and followers,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, with blockchain, I think there is we have a situation now, Colin, where we can incentivize people to stay in a decentralized fashion, right? And I think that's what Presearch is attempting to do. So, kind of tell us about the idea of Presearch, how it came about, where you are today with the main net launch.
Yeah, so I mean, Presearch itself was kind of born from this experience, you know, with Google. I've got another business called ShopCity.com. It builds like it's a network of local marketplaces. So each city gets its own domain name, and we had launched in Google's backyard, Mountain View, California, ShopMountainView.com, in partnership with the city government and the Chamber of Commerce and the local newspaper. And Google certainly had an opportunity to become familiar with it, because it was in the press right in their backyard, and they are members of the Chamber of Commerce and whatnot. And so we're kind of plugging away, getting this site spun up, and it's the middle of July 2011. And we wake up one day, and all of our sites, or almost all of the sites, are on page 8 of Google. And we're like, hey, what's going on? How did we screw this up? How can we fix this? Whatever. Well, it turns out, really wasn't something we screwed up. And kind of through this whole series, we got connected with a lawyer, a guy who was involved in an FTC investigation, trying to, kind of like break up Google essentially, and their monopoly. And ended up discovering that Google had assessed a manual penalty against the site. Yeah,
Wow.
I've
Are you
actually got,
serious?
yeah, man, I've got this thing right here.
I mean, I'm not shocked, but
Yeah,
let's see here.
that's the front page story. I don't know if it's backwards for you or not. It
No,
is.
it's good. Yep.
Okay.
Google ranking unfair, site says.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so this was kind of like the genesis to everything, and we
Mm.
ended up, getting our issue resolved basically through pressuring them through the media. But in the process of that happening, we just realized, oh wow, Google has really the power to make or break just about anything on the internet. If it can't be found on Google, then it basically doesn't exist. And so started thinking, like, how could we possibly, break that monopoly, and realize that, man, they have like super deep tentacles, obviously insane, resources. And so kind of came up with, hey, if there was a way that we could like leverage Google, but introduce kind of this like thin wedge in the user experience where we could create more of like a federated search field, basically, that would open it up to having additional search engines, be truly one click away, and kind of create that level playing field. What we were thinking at the time was the Switzerland of search, basically. And uh, and so built a prototype, had really good feedback on it from family and friends and the people that were using it, but really just didn't see like a viable go-to-market strategy. I had started previous to that, like way back in like 2004, a start page builder called startster.com. If you go onto like archive.org, you can see it. But
Hmm.
uh, that one basically ended up competing against Google because they ended up launching this start page builder called iGoogle. And I kind of like chickened out, truthfully, at the time they launched this thing. I was like, oh man, I could never compete against these guys, and so I kind of
Hmm.
like let it fizzle out. Well, turns out that they ended up actually shutting theirs down unceremoniously, and kind of leaving this huge void in the space after they killed everybody out. And this was what that lawyer, the FTC guy, referred to as killing projects in the cradle, and that being kind of this effect of having a monopoly who could just go out and basically annihilate you if they wanted to. And so,
This is
anyways,
this is
knew
why
all
I
this
have a
stuff
yeah. This is
going
why I have
into.
a problem with like the censorship I'm seeing on Twitter, on
Yeah, man.
Facebook. I'm not on Facebook, but on Twitter and other platforms that have pretty much hit critical mass. Right? They
Yep.
say, oh well, you can go somewhere else. It's a private company. We can determine what should be seen or not. But that's not really true. Like you said, if everyone is going to Twitter or Google to find stuff, then there's no like, yeah, I can go somewhere else, but I basically will be invisible. I won't even exist. Like if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there,
Yeah.
did it
Did it
really
really
fall?
fall?
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Exactly, man. And that's it. And they've got that ability through these platforms that are controlled, and really. So kind of thought, oh yeah, it'd be amazing to start more of a search engine that was more of a level playing field, and one where you could add, because like a lot of people don't think about it. They think of, oh well, Google's a search engine, but there's many, almost any other resource on the web that has a search interface is like a niche search engine. So if you go to like you can go to presearch.com, and you can see below the search field all the different icons for all these providers. We've got like over 100 that are kind of in there pre-configured that you can just add in, or you can add in your own through like custom providers. And that for me was actually the initial value of pre-search. It was being able to like customize all these different resources and have like this federated search field where I can search, and then I can easily, with the click of my mouse or my finger tap, choose where to direct my query. Anyways, discovered Ethereum in 2017, realized, oh wow, we could incentivize people to search through pre-search by rewarding them with which is our token, as they search, and that we could basically create a closed loop ecosystem by mandating payment in an advertising platform with the pre-token. And so a project was born in 2017. Ended up, seeing a fair bit of success and support from the community, and we've been building it ever since then. And just last week, we've switched over so that kind of the core functionality of the platform is now being powered by 65,000 independent user nodes. So it's software that people put on their computer on a server. It joins our network. We then have basically these computing resources that we can allocate, and throw tasks at. So right now, the main task is like, a query comes in, it gets anonymized. The nodes then take that query and they go out to all these different sources, search engines, databases, APIs. They bring back the information, they compile it with our algorithm, and then serve it back to the user. But ultimately, we can add all these different tasks in there, crawling the web and building an index and searching the web and data storage, file storage, all that kind of stuff. And then we reward people with the pre-tokens when they successfully complete one of these tasks. So we now have kind of like a ton of computing horsepower as of, just a few days ago. And now it's about, building out all those next layers of the platform, so that Presearch can ultimately become this, fully decentralized, community-driven search engine, something that's more, like a public utility than, the current kind of corporate-dominated, Wall Street-focused search and other providers that are ultimately able to make a massive impact on humanity and really kind of influence our destiny, our degree of freedom, our economies, all those things, with like kind of no real input from the users and from the broader community,
So when I do a search, if I'm just using the pre-search icon on your presearch.com, it comes to this landing page. So kind of tell us what this is all about and how a person would navigate this.
So that one right there. So if you go back to the home page, and then run a search, and if you click on the P icon, the first one, that will take you to like the pre-search results page, which is powered by the nodes.
Mm-hmm.
The one that you had was there's like a kind of an ellipsis icon, like the dot dot dot. When you click on that shows like all the different providers that we've added as defaults into the system. So we've got a bunch of different, crypto resources. There's different social networks.
Okay, so if I click pre-search instead,
that's right.
Boom, that will take me to this.
Yeah,
which is more what people are used to.
That's correct. Exactly.
Okay.
This is the pre-search results page, and so generally the results are quite good. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people in the community, like, we don't use Google anymore. We just use Presearch, and it's.
So I'm curious. Of course, you don't give away your secret sauce, but search out. I'm computer science background.
Cool.
So tell us about this search algorithm and how did you develop it and how did you tweak it and how did that whole process go? I had to be some R&D in that, right?
So I mean, like, the ultimate vision for the platform is like a fully decentralized, independent index. So we'll be able to allocate to this node network a list of sites that need to be crawled, and that information is then retrieved and then built into an index, and then ultimately we have an algorithm that determines the relevance of those links to a keyword, which is Google has PageRank. Ultimately, there will be the same for Presearch. Right now, we're basically leveraging existing search engines and their algorithms, and we have the ability to basically combine them. So it's more like a meta search type engine, and then we can pull in all these different resources. So if you search for like Bitcoin, for instance, you'll get like a kind of crypto information package, and that's kind of like our first real foray into open source on the site. So that there is using what we call the community package platform. So you can go onto GitHub and you can see how you can build these things, but it's basically like a knowledge panel that goes above the traditional search results, which again, so we're getting these results from existing sources primarily, and then kind of mashing them up with things like this community package or different API calls and database calls that we're doing out to like specialized information sources. And so with these community packages, basically anybody who is able to develop for the web can submit these for approval. Ultimately, it will be a community controlled process. Right now, the core development team does it, but somebody does a pull request and they will say, hey, here's my package. It should be triggered when somebody searches for this word or this kind of schema of terms. So there's like a pretty robust, actually, a currency converter. So if you do like, 10 BTC to USD as your query, it will, on page, calculate that out for you. And so that would be like an example of a schema where somebody has put in, hey, if these things happen, then trigger this package. And then this package can basically go and access different outside resources. In this case, it's powered by, external APIs. And in this case, we've had two different people. So we had this Nicholas and then Joshua. So I forget which one was first, but one of them built, we built one first, a currency converter. It wasn't that great. And then one of the community members went out and then built a whole other one that was way better. And then one of the other community members came in and then augmented it further and made it even better. And so like that's kind of like the vision for how we can tackle what is known as like kind of the short tail of search. And that's like your really kind of common queries, things that happen on a regular basis. Maybe they happen, in kind of a time sensitive manner. It could be, news type queries, things that are kind of connected to like social media and like really like timely type results. And we have the ability basically to like provide these on-page results that can be quite robust. And the community, ultimately, there could be thousands of people developing these and submitting them into the project and then making pre-search better that way. And then kind of the long term is that we tackle that long tail of search, which is, the billions and billions of pages that are out on the web. And, these obscure queries, sometimes, it's a query that's never been run before and you've got to have results for it. And there's a whole very complex algorithm that's involved in doing that. But we're kind of taking it like, multiple steps at a time, trying to basically create the draw for the token, which is, why does the token have value? How does it work from a utility standpoint? It's the, staking and payment mechanism for the advertising platform. Okay, well then how do we make that valuable? Well, we need a place where we can display ads. And then we need an audience that is, growing and is valuable and is using pre-search because, they actually want to support the project and they have an opportunity to support the sponsors of that project. Now you've got a demand mechanism for the token and that token that's, being given out for rewards and being sold to fund operations of the platform. It's got that market established. And so that's kind of, in a nutshell, pre-search.
Okay, cool. So, most of my audience would be on the end user side,
Yep.
searching on pre-search. How can they get involved? How can they make money in this? I know you guys have what's called some Raspberry Pi that you kind of hacked up and made it your own. Tell us about that. It's running a node, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Right. And then tell us on the other side how you can generate revenue from this.
Yeah, so there's three primary ways that you can earn pre-tokens through the platform. So definitely, so if you sign up for an account, you can click the register link in the top right corner. And when you create an account, as you search, you start accumulating fractions of a pre-token. The other way would be to refer other people. So everybody has like an affiliate link or a referral link. Basically, once you've created an account, in the menu, there's like a share section. You can go in there and then you can grab your link and then you could put that into your video content, or if you have a website, you can put a banner or whatever. And then you earn pre-tokens when people join pre-search through your link and then start searching. And then, the final one that you talked about is being a node operator. So contributing computing resources into the project and basically successfully handling these queries that are sent to you. And so you can go to nodes.presearch.com and you can download the software. and kind of get it connected into the network, and make the network aware that you have these computing resources that can be utilized. And if you are looking to have kind of like the most decentralized nodes, some people are running them in the cloud, like on a virtual private server. There's many different providers that people are utilizing, some of the big tech ones like AWS and Google, but there's also a lot of different VPS providers out there. And then the people that are like, no, I want this to be super decentralized, they are generally running it on a dedicated device, on either a business internet connection or a really fast home internet connection. And so to support those people, we ended up kind of porting the software over to Raspberry Pi so that it would be supported on that platform. Raspberry Pi is like a very inexpensive computer that is built to kind of be hacked basically and programmed, and it's very customizable, and again very inexpensive. You can pick them up for like $100 kind of thing. So we ended up just coming up with a, hey, let's create a branded version of this. And we kind of did a proof of concept, and then we open sourced the 3D rendering for it so that other people could print it in their 3D printers. And a bunch of people just ended up actually running totally with their own. They created new designs. They look like the pre-search icon. It's like a blue box with a white square.
I saw that
here, but I think it's at home. I should bring it in. And anyways, you can basically buy these from independent creators and distributors, and then it's like a super easy, out of the box plug and play setup. And then you're running a node and you're contributing to power the network, and then you earn tokens for doing that.
So what's at this point, are you guys able to capture the data on how many node providers are running on like an AWS versus running their own Pis or on VPNs?
We haven't
private servers, VPSs.
We haven't totally drilled down into that yet. That is definitely going to be something that we're going to be focused on more as we're trying to decentralize the network. There's a link. It's mainnet-launch.presearch.com that has like a breakdown of where the nodes are. So one of the big things with this mainnet launch is that previous to that, everything was running centrally through one location. So it was all happening through California, and so people who were on the other side of the world, for instance, global users, they were getting kind of like slow. So we ended up starting to distribute this out, and so there's now what we call globally distributed gateways, and so there's now 4 of them, 2 in the US, 1 in Germany, 1 in Singapore. And so it's gotten significantly faster for global users now. And this will ultimately, there will be node gateways all over the place, and then those local nodes will connect into them. And so there's definitely, I would say, probably a majority of nodes right now are running in like VPSs, but we've kind of created some logic in there to incentivize more of that distribution and outside.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah, there should be some incentivization for people who don't run on a AWS server.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
So that's the central point of failure.
That's
okay,
right.
That's cool, man. One other question I have for you, and this is of course this is part of just the decentralization beast, right? There's pros and cons and everything. Yep. How do you guys handle not safe for work type of content searches? What happens with that type of stuff?
So right now, I mean, for the most part, it's again, because of the meta search nature of it, it's pulling from other sources that by default they're not the the filtered results. It's kind of like what you would get if you were going to Google or any of the other search engines and without like a filter on it. The filtering capability we're going to layer in, and eventually kind of the vision for how we would handle like really questionable content, like things like obviously child pornography and things that are super important and challenging kind of topics is ultimately the plan is to turn this into a DAO and enable the community to vote and have a say in the overall policies, and then building out different systems where people can flag content, actually be rewarded for flagging content that other community members are essentially able to go in and vet and kind of stake against or for. And we kind of have a concept for how the community will basically be able to take on that role of policing content, but also still kind of ensuring that openness is there, and that it's able to see, like, if something has been removed, like, well, who removed it, why was it removed, who was involved in voting for it to be removed, that kind of
Right.
thing. And having like an open process for how it could be not removed or put back into an index. And then ultimately, one of the other real keys, I think, is not taking this one size fits all kind of vanilla search view on things like what Google has, and actually having different sets of defaults. And so we're working on a concept called community search engines, where as a community leader, you could basically kind of have your own white label like version of pre-search,
Mm.
where you could set the defaults for it, and then therefore people who have different values or different interests or different needs could use pre-search, still kind of that underlying framework, but they would be using it through maybe a dedicated UI that sets their defaults to the values that align with them as a community. And we think that that's it's almost more like kind of the republic model, like with the US, versus all these other kind of very top down kind of nation states, where ultimately you're trying to like delegate as much responsibility out to the edges as is possible, and have as minimal kind of interference in the middle as possible. So
So great. So how much skin in the game do people have to participate? Like on the node side, how much do they have to stake of the pre-token? Kind of give us those details before we wrap up tokenomics.
yeah, so it's currently 2000 pre. Last I looked, pre was something like 10-11 cents a pre. So it's a couple $100,
Oh,
and
nice.
then that enables you to start a node. So some people are paying more for their actual node. Some people might spend $8 or $10 a month, but there's a lot of people out there that are spending just a couple bucks a month. There's even some providers out there, I think Oracle might be one of them, where you can get like a free VPS for life. So you can run it on there and have fairly little cost. And then we're trying to essentially ensure, and so we've got kind of like two phases. Like the one phase will be as the project gets to be totally self-sufficient, and the node rewards are being distributed just based off of the advertising income that is generated by the keyword staking platform, by the ad platform. But until then, kind of from Treasury, we have a pool of rewards, and we're trying to basically ensure that people have, more than enough to cover their VPS costs, and that's kind of what is being, earned on a regular basis. And then obviously, it's kind of similar to Bitcoin. I mean, like if you were liquidating your Bitcoin as you were mining it in the early days, then you kind of missed out on the actual growth of the network over time.
Right.
And so it's kind of similar to that. It's not really promising, hey, people are going to get rich on this instantly. And there's a lot of like node projects out there where it's like this passive income, strictly about, hey, put in X and then you'll get Y. In this case, it is more of like a utility reward for providing a service and helping to, build out the network and help grow the network. And so, those rewards we anticipate as the network grows will end up, being more valuable than they are currently. But yeah, it's still, something that a lot of people are doing, and finding to be kind of an interesting aspect of their kind of, crypto portfolio and their digital assets.
Now this is neat. Definitely, I'll leave a link in the description of this video. You guys go check out presearch.com if you want to actually do some searching. Presearch.io if you want to find out more information about the company. Colin, it's been a pleasure. I'm going to definitely have you back on in a few months to get an update. Mainnet is live.
Yep.
Mainnet is live, so check it out, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy Crypto Blood, and that's another kick in the session. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe, and click that bell to receive more videos like this. I'm out of here. Holla!